Namaste and welcome to the second season of Future Fit Corporates. My name is Bhavana Issar and I'm the founder CEO of Caregiver Saathi. In this season, we are going global and shifting the narrative. Caregiving is not a career obstacle or something that organizations must accommodate. It's a leadership accelerator. And through candid conversations with corporate leaders, consultants, and change makers, we explore how caregiving shapes resilience, empathy, and innovation. Let's discover what it truly takes to build workplaces that don't just include caregivers, but recognize that caregiving experience is an asset. Because the future of work is not just tech, female, or inclusive, it's compassionate, it's innovative, and therefore caregiver friendly. Welcome to Future Fit Corporates. So Harsh, you and I spoke or exchanged messages. I think we had a very nice long conversation some time ago. And in that, we spoke about your personal story and association with caregiving.
Mhm.
And your work right now in terms of influencing finance and finance-related aspects for individuals and organizations. Now, what we are trying to do at Caregiver Saathi is see if there is a space for organizations or corporates to understand that employees have caregiving responsibilities. And those employees who have caregiving responsibilities are facing unique circumstances. And it needs to be seen differently to include such people at the workplace. Yeah. So what we did in season 1 of this podcast was I had 24 conversations with a variety of consultants, coaches, HR professionals to say that actually it started from Women's Day, and it said that, usually a lot of this conversation is around women, and it is around women's challenges of working, and it typically happens around Women's Day.
Okay.
Right? And some people will come back and say, listen, we don't do Women's Day only, we do Women's Month. And, my goal was to be able to take it beyond 8th of March, Women's Day, or beyond the month of March to the rest of the year. How can we have some of these conversations on an ongoing basis and explore how caregiving holds women back from careers, from financial independence, from being able to participate in workforce or in income, and what are the implications it has for them. Yeah. So that was season 1. And if you look at the dossier, it talks about some of these dimensions, and it speaks about how
Who were the people who came? I mean, just I've forgotten. At that time when you had sent, I had done some research.
yeah,
Today I've not really
yeah,
done the research.
yeah. Oh my God, there were 24 people. So
Okay.
I won't be able to list all of them, but there were people like
Anyone I would
CHR.
know? I mean, these were all caregivers themselves, or
Well, yes, but not actively, not people who, identify as caregivers, but people who are working professionals. So, there are people who have been CHROs and they are CHROs, or there are people who are consultants and coaches and leadership consultants. There are people who have been HR professionals.
okay.
People like Lakshmi Chandrasekharan or Soma Pandey or Maya John or Sandeep or Sai, um, eh, among other people. I don't want to, not list all of them. But basically, people who I have known, who have known of my work, and who are able to, make connections on the topic.
Hmm.
So the key question we were addressing in season 1 was, why is it a leaky pipeline to the C-suite for women? Women keep falling off at various points in their career, and very, very few reach the C-suite or the CEO or the decision-making positions or the board positions. Yeah. So what's going on and what are some of the issues? And obviously, caregiving at various stages is holding women to, is getting them to make certain choices. While season 1 was about that, and certainly we can talk about some of those things in our conversation, in season 2, we thought we will take a step further. And what we will do in this is invite both men and women from non-HR functions, look at CEOs and CFOs and related or marketing professionals and say, one, how is it a leadership challenge and not just a people HR challenge? 2, how is caregiving gender neutral? It applies both to men and women. How is it that it is not just a India or a South Asia issue, but it is actually a global issue? So I have had many guests who have had, global roles, who are from all over the world, and feel that caregiving is such a universal global issue and that it impacts people all over the world. It impacts workplaces all over the world. But clearly, organizations and workplaces are not able to see this as an important area.
Just to sort of interrupt you for a minute, what is the what does Caregiver Saathi do? You did mention, okay, is it a not-for-profit, for-profit one? Okay, and whichever way it is, what is the objective that you were explaining? But in a nutshell, these series of podcasts, the first series of podcasts you mentioned, where I mean, it was more focused on women, okay, and why they were not reaching the C-suite. Caregiving responsibilities being one such thing, okay, not necessarily the only thing. I mean, they face a lot of discrimination. This is just adding to that discrimination. Uh, so to me, that name Caregiver Saathi and the focus on women, at least in the first round. So I just want to understand Caregiver Saathi objectives and the end objectives of the podcast series.
Let me try and answer this in 2 sentences if I can. Okay. Caregiver Saathi is an organization. It's a non-profit, Caregiver Saathi Foundation. We do believe that there is huge commercial potential in care economy, but we have to choose which part of that we want to do as a business, if at all. But for sure, Caregiver Saathi was started as a non-profit because we believe that healthcare should be for all, and it should be irrespective of your ability to afford resources or not. And the leadership team of such an organization should be motivated by other reasons than making profit. Yeah. Now, what does Caregiver Saathi do? Caregiver Saathi is in the business of, I'm just going to take this out. Yeah.
You joined 5 minutes before. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No, so the purpose of Caregiver Saathi is that if you are a caregiver, you should not feel alone and you should have easy access to resources.
So this is basically a community. I'm just going to rephrase this in my head to understand this. As far as Caregiver Saathi is concerned, that's a not-for-profit organization that serves as a sort of a uh, community voice for
Yeah,
caregivers of all varieties,
yeah,
but primarily addressed to people with maybe not having enough resources as well, apart from people having resources. Okay, because caregiving responsibilities has an impact on everyone.
that's right. So I wouldn't say that this is only for those who don't have resources. I think people, by resources, we mean all kinds of resources, right? Sometimes people have the money, but they don't have the skills. Sometimes people have the money and the skills, but they don't have the community support, or they feel exhausted even after having money and the skills, right? So this resources, caregiver as a community, one, caregiving is very important for us, both as caregivers and as receivers, right? And we are losing the community connection because family structures are changing. Now, as a caregiver, one of the biggest needs that we have is to feel resourceful and to feel a sense of connection. Do I have all the information that I need? Do I have a community that I need? Do I have the money that I need? Yeah. And sometimes I may have the money, I just don't know how to make it work for me,
Sure,
which
got
is
it.
where a person like you comes in, right?
So got it, got it. So that was one portion. But then how does this all, the first podcast objective of, concentrating on why women miss the sea suit? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you can speak of caregiving. You can't do 24 episodes on caregiving. So, or did
Yeah.
you do
Interestingly, we
24
did.
episodes on caregiving?
We did, and we did more than 24. We've done second season as well, because the whole point is to get multiple or diverse experiences and perspectives, and to say what's going on in workplaces. Now, if we, our challenge is, how can we support caregivers in a way that we are not expecting them to only earn for the caregiving uh, responsibility, right? There are all kinds of sorry about these readers, I'm going to remove this one as well. Okay.
Hmm.
So
So, okay, got that.
my goal is
Hmm.
that, can we design a solution
Mm-hmm.
for all caregivers that does not burden the caregiver themselves?
Okay.
For example, most commercial ventures that support caregivers will say, if you want caregiver support services, pay for it.
Hmm.
On the other hand, if it's a non-profit, it will say this is a charity. Is there a solution that is possible at a collective level that
Mm-hmm.
supports caregivers without it being a burden on the caregivers and without it being a charity?
But who, somebody has to fund that. So, I mean, unless the government funds it, who else will fund it? I mean, either the person requiring the caregiving or the caregiver or the government. Which fourth party can be, or a charity organization, maybe four. I mean, those are all the potential sources of funding, at least as far as funding is concerned. Where else will the funding come from?
Yeah. And
I mean,
if the
community
government
funding
is,
didn't exist even earlier. I mean, even in our old tradition, it would be the family. Okay, anyways, so what you are saying is that is the solution. Now, what is the objective from these, or from today's podcast or the series of podcasts? What is the objective?
so exactly this, that how should we design our products or services so that we can support caregivers without it being a burden on the only on the caregivers?
So, I mean, are you going to be giving the suggestions? Because I don't know whether I would have any suggestions to give on this. I can't think of any suggestion short of saying government should do it. I mean, ultimately, it is the if there is no family, okay, then it is the responsibility of the state to provide it, and state is not doing a great job. Forget caregiving. I mean, state is doing a terrible job today of providing even normal health facilities. Forget about caregiving, which is like continuous and goes on for years and years. uh, I mean, it's not even a one-time funding. It's not even concentrated funding. At least हॉस्पिटल एक जगह पे तो है, अगर हॉस्पिटल है तो ओके, या ओल्ड पीपल्स होम्स हैं तो एक जगह पे तो है. यू हैव funding concentrated, providing services at home. Okay, my God. Okay, that too from an Indian state. I mean, overseas, like there are certain countries which do provide this. Uh, because I was uh, looking, I mean, not for this purpose, but for some other purpose. Because when I've done these things on, disability. Okay, because that's a big issue, right? You have Alzheimer's, you have dementia. Okay, who's going to look after? So, I mean, this was the issue that haunts us today, right? My family has a history. Okay, so I may have the money. Okay, and maybe one of it gets it, the other person is there as जितना कर पाएंगे. Okay, लेकिन अगर एक ही बचता है और उनको अगर हो जाता है, okay, ये अल्जाइमर, डिमेंशिया, समथिंग एल्स. Okay, I mean, when it happened to my father, we were there. Okay. And we were fortunately there. We were living in the same building. Okay. Despite that, and we had the resources. Despite that, it was, I mean, mainly on my spouse, but also on me, but definitely mainly on my spouse. But I don't know if we were overseas, what would have happened? So, I mean, and
This
that
is
worries
exactly
me.
the conversation I want to have with you. So, the way that I want to structure it is you tell me about your work. What is it
Hmm.
that you normally do? What are the
Hmm.
kind of articles that you write around, finance and equipping yourself or managing your money or managing your investments, etc. Let's talk about that. And then let's talk about this. And let's talk about the difficulty that, yes, right now the public health system is not equipped. Right now, we don't have any community services. And yes, the possibilities are what we are just discovering. So, for example, talk about which are the other countries that provide some kind of support and why is that okay or not okay,
Okay.
right? So, if we say, okay, so for example, for the state to be able to provide, right? The countries that provide that, there is an addition, they have a different tax structure.
Absolutely.
Right? Now, that tax structure could be, I'm not an expert on the topic, but that tax structure could be direct or indirect taxes. That could be, taxes that are applicable to organizations or individuals. Or there could be a redirection of the CSR funds or a prioritization. And maybe those are possibilities that one could explore and saying, ki, aisa to nahi hai. We are not a resource poor country.
Yeah, no, no, yeah. I don't think we can say we are not. We definitely are. I mean, whether it is
Okay,
CSR, so
we
there
are
are so
not,
many. जब पेट
we
ही
are
नहीं
not.
भरा है आदमी का, तो वो मतलब the because for each of us we concentrate on one area. Okay, we feel, oh, this is important, and it is important. There is no question. Okay, but the difficulty is that when you look at two very important and then to prioritize between them, जैसे वो this happens to clients कि they want to make plans for sending their son to Harvard plus they want to plan for their retirement बट पैसा उतना ही है कि दोनों में से एक होगा अब टू चूज both are very important okay but to choose between sending your son to Harvard okay and you know uh, planning for your retirement which one is more important I mean try getting somebody to wrestle with that. I mean, that's where people like us come in. First pointing out that boss ये एक issue है ये सोचिए इसके बारे में ओके नहीं तो क्या होता है भाई हार्वर्ड कम्स फर्स्ट तो वो तो भेज दिया रिटायरमेंट का सोचेंगे सन विल टेक केयर पर सन से आपने बात ही नहीं करी कि भाई वो आप जा तो रहे हो मेरा रिटायरमेंट का किटी साथ में लेके जा रहे हो तो वापिस आप आओगे नहीं ओके तो मेरा रिटायरमेंट का ख्याल तो रखोगे कि नहीं रखोगे ओके पैसे तो दोगे कि नहीं दोगे ओके
That's a great point for us to explore in our conversation from your experience.
conflicting or I mean trade-offs okay I mean helping clients take conscious trade-off decisions is what we and trade-offs everybody has to take okay including people with resources people जैसे some people come कि मेरे पास बहुत पैसे हैं कोई goals नहीं है बच्चे हो गए शादी हो गई okay and I have enough money to retire तो मेरा कोई गोल नहीं है अच्छा कोई गोल नहीं है तो क्या करोगे ये पैसों का पैसे बस मेरे को रिटर्न चाहिए क्यों चाहिए ओके क्या करोगे अच्छा कब चाहिए okay so I mean those kind of conversations when we have and it is in that context that they come out I mean and then you do these life planning questions कि भाई अगर आप डेथ बेड पे हो तो क्या आप सोचोगे कि क्या कर लेता मैं समय रहते क्या कर लेता ओके तो वो आप कर लीजिए ना डेथ बेड पे तो हो नहीं ओके पैसे भी हैं आपके पास रिसोर्सेज भी हैं टाइम भी शायद है ओके तो क्यों नहीं कर रहे कब करोगे okay so anyways so those are the kind of things we can have we can try let's try I mean this is pretty free flowing conversation but what the structure I could suggest maybe okay subject to your this thing is my experience with caregiving my and my spouses and I will have to speak on her behalf okay uh, and what it sort of led me to look at what were the discoveries that I had through that personal experience. It changed the way that I conduct my practice. It has changed the way that I live my life. I mean, very clearly, it has completely changed the way I live my life. Okay, that experience. So, two, what implications it has, and maybe we will explore these. So other country, I am only aware of US because I had a very detailed discussion with a friend in the US. In Europe, there are certain countries I have not done but before I write about anything, I will do research. This one I haven't really done research, but you are probably more aware of how these things are. Are
If
you
I
aware?
can, if I can get you to do some research and probably write it in one of your articles, I think it will be very helpful because it will influence a large number of people to think in a particular way,
Sure, I
right?
will. 100%. This is an
Yeah.
area
So
of
I think,
huge
yeah,
personal interest as well. And it's
yeah.
relevant. It's
So,
relevant.
so my, so the structure of our conversation, Harsh, will be that we speak about you, your work, and your association with caregivers or caregiving and your understanding. So what I'm trying to do at Caregiver Saathi is not just increase awareness and education for caregivers to see themselves that in my caregiving role, there are implications. I'm a caregiver, not just to my son who has to be sent to Harvard. I'm a caregiver to my partner or myself who will need long-term care, right? And I don't even know how long I will live and what conditions I will have and how much corpus will I need, right? So one part of it will probably come from my retirement fund. but everything cannot be provided at an individual level. Is there an opportunity for us to innovate on insurance? Is there an opportunity for us to innovate for state provided solutions?
Long-term care
Right?
insurance exists worldwide. Not very
Yes,
successful from, I mean, and people don't trust insurance companies in India, anywhere in the world for it, but definitely not
that's
in
right.
India.
There was this huge issue in the US, right?
Mm,
About long-term care and its implications. And insurance is probably not
Not the
if
answer.
the goal of insurance is to maximize profit, then they will be motivated to make profit without giving out, you know, let's just say optimize on claims, right? And that's a challenge.
Maybe a community pooling. Okay. So, I mean, from the pool you get paid out. Some sort of a community insurance, a not-for-profit insurance pooling. Uh,
That's right. So
that's a
I'm
thought process.
exploring. Yeah, I know. So the point is, if
Wow.
I can,
Wow. What an idea. I mean, I don't know. Does it
yeah,
exist anywhere in the world?
doesn't matter. Why should it matter? We are the largest set of people, but we do have, for example, let's just say, can we take inspiration from Devi Shetty's Narayan Hridayalaya, which
Hmm.
does heart surgeries for everybody, where everybody pulls in 50 rupees every
Okay.
month.
No.
And
Okay.
you and the guideline of the hospital is that you are supposed to follow, your preventative care. You're supposed to come for your checkups. You're supposed to come, whatever the doctor says, and you have to follow it. And should you need any cardiovascular treatment or heart treatment, the hospital will take care of it.
Okay. Well, that's
So it's a
insurance.
very,
That's homegrown insurance. Yeah.
yeah, it's a very interesting model of saying, let's also get in preventative care. Let's minimize the number of people who need emergency care,
Hmm.
right? Who need hospital, who need surgeries. But if you are investing in your health and if you are putting aside some money, then should there be 5, 10% people who need those surgeries, this pooled money can be used for that set of people. So we are continuously reducing the number of people who need that, but at the same time also building a corpus that makes sure that the individual burden is much less. The
Hmm.
individual burden is not the kind of healthcare premium burden that I need to have because I'm providing for 4 or 6 people.
Hmm. Right. I agree.
Interesting, right?
Interesting. Interesting. And I'm
They,
sure some model will come up somewhere. Somebody would have done this
yes,
thinking. I mean, we arrived at it.
yes,
I don't know whether we arrived at it serendipitously or whatever, but somebody or the other would definitely have done it. I mean, this makes so much sense on the surface, at least. It makes so much sense.
it's
Under
worth
those
exploring,
naked,
right?
it's worth exploring. Definitely
The
worth
second
exploring.
one, for example, the very popular one is this Arvind Eye Care, right? Where every time you get your cataract treatment or you get your eye treatment, you pay for one other person who cannot pay,
Okay.
right? So if you, and then what happens is one other person gets a treatment, or there is a inbuilt contribution for the larger good, recognizing that eye treatment is valuable to everybody, whether or not. And sometimes it can be the very source of your income. It can create a livelihood for somebody, and if that person gets the support, then we are reducing the burden on us in the long run.
So, no, ultimately, this will fall on the state. I mean, whether they do a good job or not, it falls on the state. So the US thing, basically, sort of, there is that whatever money you have to give it over to the state. Okay, and this is state-wise. So you have to give it over to, say, the New York state. My friend is in New Jersey. So you just have to give it to the state, and they will then take care, okay, of the patient, even if the money is not sufficient. Okay.
That's right.
And उसमें फिर बहुत disputes होता है. What happens when one partner gets sick? Now part of that estate belongs to both partners. So which part of the estate will go over to New Jersey state? All kinds of
So
issues.
my personal opinion is that US has not necessarily done a good job of this. So
Very,
maybe
very
they are not,
good.
and maybe that's a system worth studying, but not necessarily copying.
Hmm.
Uh, Maybe there is some lessons from the Scandinavian countries,
Which
maybe,
is,
which
what
is
do they
that
do?
in Sweden or in Norway, they provide public health. They take care of you whether you have cancer or you have autism or whatever. So, for example, children or individuals with neurodivergence
Hmm.
are brought up to become independent adults, right? And then they stay in these homes where 4 or 5 of them stay together with a volunteer neurotypical adult and somebody who's another volunteer and state sponsored or whatever is the supervisor for the coordinators of these homes. Yeah.
Hmm.
Now, this encourages the individual to be skilled to do whatever jobs that they can do, whether it is the job in the market or it is a job in the, whatever that their skill level is. But they are also encouraged to be independent, and they are encouraged to be, to stay with other people in a safe setting.
Hmm.
And there is, so what that does is it takes away the anxiety and burden from the parent. What after me?
Hmm. Hmm.
Right? And similarly, the thing that you were talking about, dementia and Alzheimer's, if I have in my working years put aside or contributed to a certain extent, then do I have access to some state provided solution that I can at least complement with my own capability,
Hmm.
right? My goal is to get influencers and people who are in a position to make certain decisions start thinking about these things.
Yeah,
I
you're
don't,
right. Nobody thinks about it till it happens to them. I mean, I'm thinking about it because it happened to me. So, I
yeah,
mean, hadn't it happened, maybe even I would not have thought about it. I mean, you're
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Who
I'm,
likes to
I'm
think of
invested
these
in
things?
this. Absolutely, because I'm invested in this, Harsh, because I have a personal experience as well, right? And I have decided to say that, okay, this is a problem worth solving. Let me go after it, right?
Hmm.
Some days I feel I'm being foolish. Some days I feel ki, there is no easy solution in sight. And I have to do some things like, record this podcast with people who are saying कि तुम क्या कर रही हो, क्यों कर रही हो, कैसे करना चाहती हो, what do you want to do? So I want to solve for this problem. So Caregiver Saathi, I want it to be that safe place that caregivers can access the kind of resources that they need. Sometimes it can be, what is the financials that I need to manage, who is the right person to talk to, what do I do, etc. And sometimes it can be just, I want to know if somebody else has been in my place and
Hmm.
what did they
Hmm.
do.
Hmm. Hmm.
So we also talk about caregiver stories.
Sure.
So in fact, it's
Sure.
very interesting. When I told Gaurav that I'm talking to you, he said, is Harsh talking about his story? Because we do that conversations with gentle warriors. Or is he talking on future fit corporates? So I said, no, I've requested him to talk on future fit corporates because I want to pick his brains on the money side of this problem?
But this is very personal, so I don't know. I mean, there is a corporate angle to this in terms that these people work for these corporates, and ultimately the financial, mental, physical health of their uh, employees will determine the fate of the companies themselves. Uh, yes, I mean, but
So
anyway,
it's
let's
useful,
let's
it's
take it
interesting
on. I
to,
think
yeah.
we should.
So maybe your, yeah, maybe your perspective is, Harsh, that Bhavna, there is no point looking at the corporate angle. In my view, it's a personal thing, exactly what you just said. And I don't think corporates should be bothered about it. But we do need to find other solutions at the individual or the state level.
Corporates need to be sensitive about it. Beyond that, uh, again, I have personal experiences. My one of my cousin brother's grandson has a issue which requires caregiving, and my nephew and his wife, uh, and the wife works with a Tata company, and she says the level of support that I receive from the company, okay, makes me, she says, because there is a day on which I had to take him to a specific doctor, and that doctor appointment was available only at some 6:30 in the morning, and for that she had to leave her Andheri home at some 5 o'clock or something like that. And she says that they sent a car. They actually hired a car and sent it to her. And she's not very senior. She will be middle level, junior to middle level person. But I mean, that kind of sensitivity in a huge corporate. Okay, ocean hai wo, okay. So obviously, उनका manager obviously is somebody with a sensitive person, but they have a corporate policy that allows that manager to be sensitive. Okay, it can't be possible without the manager being sensitive. And I mean, she's now. I doubt she will leave them. She may. I mean, you don't know about today's people, but uh, very clearly that generates a kind of loyalty that's very difficult. It happened to us. One of our colleagues, just after she had joined, in fact, she's outside, that's why I put my tone down. Her father-in-law was discovered with a serious illness, and she just joined. And she took leaves. And, we thought, okay, boss, she's not, either she's fibbing, etc. She did say that her father-in-law was not well. So we spoke to the search consultant कि भाई पता करो ये दूसरा जॉब ढूंढ रही है तो ठीक है मतलब ढूंढ रही है तो जाने दे हम लेकिन then she said नहीं नहीं it is true her father-in-law का है और and that since search consultant was also good she said कि सर आप ये अपॉर्चुनिटी समझिए अभी अगर आप सपोर्ट करेंगे तो you will be able to get the kind of loyalty, okay, which is very difficult to get. And anyway, that's something that as a good and a small organization, you can make the policy. You don't have to depend on a headquarter to make that policy. So all that we did was we were more sort of sensitive to the whole issue. And I think it has helped. We'll know. I mean, only time will tell whether it has helped or not. It does not matter. It made us feel good. More importantly, it sends a message out to other people कि सेंसिटिव ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है और तो मतलब क्या
आप
ही
खुद ही
कर
देख लीजिए अब ये कॉन्वर्जेशन हमारी, हर्ष. You've given me an example of a large organization. You've given me an example of a small organization. You've given me an example of how it has benefited these individuals, how you think it impacts loyalty, how it impacts their performance as well,
100%.
right? So, how are we going to
Just
get
their performance of other people around also it affects.
exactly my point, right? It's not just their performance. So if now your organization, whether it is a small organization or it's a large organization, as leaders of organizations, How important is it for you to see that a caregiver has unique uh,
Mm.
challenges and that they need to be accommodated? So that is one part of it. But my other question for you will be, do you think, and this is a question that I ask in this conversation, especially second season, do you think this is an accommodation that you should make for certain people because there are certain circumstances? Or do you think people who have been caregivers come with some unique perspective or competencies? What does caregiving teach you that makes you a different person?
Interesting question. Let's start now. I'll take a quick break and come back, and we can start the conversation. I
Yeah,
mean, it
I
will be
know.
a formal conversation, right?
Yes, yes. I will, we can restart
So
from
I'll just
there.
come back in a minute, right?
Yeah. Greetings of the day. Welcome to yet another conversation around future fit corporates. As you're aware, future fit corporates, with the intention of what does it mean to invest in people and nurture success, is an initiative aimed at fostering caregiver friendly workplaces and envisioning a future ready corporate culture. In today's dynamic corporate landscape, the success of an organization is intricately tied to the well being and satisfaction of its workforce. Future Fit Corporates aims at having conversations with diverse leaders and diverse perspectives, some of whom may not agree with us, and to facilitate these conversations such that through video interviews, podcasts, and written responses, we explore, discuss, and champion the integration of employee well being into the core fabric of corporate strategies. So far, caregivers and caregiving has been in the realm of women and women at the workplace. And we would like to take this beyond this gendered idea. We would like to look at people's performance and sustainable success and what it means for workplaces. In the light of this conversation, or in the light of this goal, it is my absolute pleasure to have with us our today's guest, Harsh Roongta. Welcome, Harsh.
Thank you. Thank you, Bhavna. Thank you for having me here.
Harsh is the founder of Fee Only Investment Advisors, where he helps individuals and families align their financial decisions with their values, goals, and a deeper sense of purpose. His practice blends financial behavior coaching, evidence based investment strategy, and cross border tax expertise, all grounded in a belief that money should serve life, not the other way around. Uh, you could say that again. I think it's really important in today's world that we say this multiple times. Money should serve life, not the other way around. With a background spanning corporate roles at ICICI and entrepreneurial ventures, Harsh brings a rare mix of strategic thinking, startup agility, and human centered advice. Beyond his advisory work, he is a regular columnist for Business Standard. And I have to say, please read those articles because they are so well written and they communicate ideas that are so relatable. Known for demystifying complex financial and policy issues through thoughtful storytelling. A lifelong trekker and a wellness enthusiast, Harsh draws inspiration from the outdoors and from connecting ideas across disciplines, from finance to philosophy, law to legacy. His approach is guided by curiosity, clarity, and commitment to helping others make meaningful financial choices. Welcome, Harsh. I have been looking forward to this conversation because you have so much that I can learn from. Um, how do you relate with the idea of caregiving, caregivers, and maybe caregiver Saathi?
First of all, thank you, Bhavna, for having me here. And I think the very interesting pre-conversation that we have had, it started off a chain of thought in my head. Uh, my uh, relation to this whole idea of caregiving is very, very personal. You
Mm-hmm.
know, uh, my father is passed away in 2022. In 2016, he suffered from a stroke and he was bedridden since that day
Mm.
uh, till
Mm.
he passed away in 2022. And
Sorry.
uh, the caregiving that we did, primarily my spouse did, I have to say that. Okay, the burden of caregiving fell on her. That became a natural, I mean, you could call it gender discrimination, but basically she took that role on naturally. I have no idea what I would have done without her. Uh, but it changed our lives completely in many,
Mm.
many ways.
Yes.
First, of course, my father was the forceful personality in our lives, and suddenly he was there, but he was not there any longer. Uh,
Mm.
so, it was a huge, huge change for us. Suddenly, you see somebody who's so forceful, and he is now completely dependent on physically dependent. Okay. Financially, he was always well provided. He had well provided for himself, but physically, mentally, he was completely dependent on us.
Mm.
And to see that from somebody who has led his life so independently, it was a complete change of perspective. In fact, uh, I changed my life completely. I'll speak about that a little bit later, but basically that entire 6.5 years that we spent, that's my spouse and I spent doing caregiving, was in many ways uh, very fulfilling as well, in that sense
Mm.
that we were
Mm.
actually able to do things for him that his independent nature would have never allowed if he was well. So in a way that that was the good thing. He we have a family history of my grandfather before him had spent the last 3 years of his life on bed with
Mm.
less cognition. My grandfather's brother, so we have a family history. One of my uncles, so my father was always fearful of this, that
Mm.
he would get disabled, which he
Mm.
did. And fortunately, in his case, we were in Bombay, we were staying in the same building, so resources were not an issue. Okay. And despite that, the caregiving was not easy. Definitely not for my wife, also not for me, but definitely not for my wife. I mean, it changes. Even if resources are not an issue, to create that infrastructure of nurses, the
Yeah.
ward boys, and the
Yeah.
house help, and the
Yeah.
physiotherapist, and the speech therapists, and going to the doctors and emergencies, and uh,
Yeah.
you know making sure that he was having the right kind of food and only that much food, not to make sure that he was not overfed, because obviously there
Mm.
was no exercise that he was doing.
Yeah.
It was like running a corporate. It was literally like, and my
Mm.
spouse did a great job of doing that. And at that time, one of the things that I learned is that, so my father is a widower, was a widower at that time, and
Mm.
everything, he is very well planned. So taking over his finances was easy because they were all there. But
Mm.
all his accounts, all his demat accounts, bank accounts, they were all in single name. They all had nominees. We were
Mm.
nominees in those accounts. Okay. But obviously, nomination doesn't help, uh, because
Mm.
thankfully he was still very much there. So even to access his own funds for his own use, okay,
Mm.
बहुत मेहनत करना पड़ा। तो
Mm.
बहुत सी we learned a lot of things, okay,
Mm.
on how these things are done. We realized that the law does not provide for this at all, okay.
Mm.
uh,
Mm.
we looked at all the laws, law does not provide. So like most Indian people, we learn to, you know, I don't like that word too much, but there is jugaad that you do, okay, to make
Mm.
sure that this becomes possible. And
Yeah.
logically, why should there be a reason for the jugaad? I mean, these are things that are
Yes.
increasingly happening. So that was one lesson. It is a lesson in management. It was a lesson in trying to communicate with him. His communication was
Yeah.
low. He used to get depressed. So all those things were huge learnings. The other big
Yeah.
learning was to try and prepare for it. So because I fear the same thing that my father fears because of the family history, I've tried to do those things. I've written articles on this,
Yeah.
preparing for disability. I've done
Yeah.
uh, webinars on that as well, because although there is now a lot more consciousness about preparing for death, people,
Yeah.
fortunately, a lot more people are writing wills. Not enough, but at least some of them are writing wills. At least a lot of people are doing nominations, so that itself is good. But I don't really see any consciousness about this epidemic that is slowly coming up, because India is aging. We are, 1.4 billion people. Okay.
The
And
large
I
number.
think we will have the largest senior citizen population in the world. Okay. Our
Yeah.
family structures are breaking down just as they are everywhere else in the world. So I, for
Yeah.
example, worry what will happen if something similar happens to me. We were
Right.
there for my father. Who will be there for us? My children are not in Bombay. Okay.
Mm.
I can't really expect them. We can't really expect them to drop whatever they are doing and come and take care of us. So what is going to happen?
Yeah.
Okay. And that has changed. So my concentration on health. Okay. Because I
Mm.
want to make sure as much as I can that I don't,
Mm.
the whole idea that there are these four pillars, okay,
Mm.
to a successful and fulfilling life: health, wealth, purpose, family and friends, and social connections. These are these four pillars, okay, and our practice is built around trying to help clients in each of these.
Mm.
we can't concentrate on one pillar. एक पिलर पे बिल्डिंग नहीं खड़ी हो सकती। बिल्डिंग के लिए चार
Correct.
पिलर्स चाहिए। तो वेल्थ पे बहुत कंसंट्रेशन होता है, वेल्थ कैसे बढ़ाया जाए, हाउ टू गेट द बेस्ट रिटर्न्स एक्सेट्रा। बट व्हाट विल यू
Right.
डू विद द वेल्थ इफ यू डोंट हैव द हेल्थ? What will you do with health and wealth if you don't have the purpose? Okay, I mean,
Yeah.
I know, I was telling somebody, I am rambling a little bit, but you can probably edit it out a little. But I was
Not at
telling
all.
somebody that, uh, you know, a person in good health with money and time on hand, okay, is a,
Yeah.
it's a very dangerous time. I
Totally.
mean, a lot of them will gravitate to the futures and options market. A lot of them will gravitate to
Mm.
something else that may not be beneficial. Okay, that's where the purpose comes in. What makes you
Mm.
get up in the morning? Okay, and
Totally.
and the purpose could be anything. The purpose,
Yeah.
I mean, for you, the purpose could be to create a vibrant caregiving community, to start dialogues around this process, etc. Okay, for
Yes.
me, the purpose could be to, again, have communication, make sure that people understand the issues that surround them, you know,
Yeah.
assist our clients to lead fulfilling lives,
Mm.
assist my friends to lead fulfilling lives. So, the purpose is extremely important, and all that cannot be achieved without close connection with family, friends, and more social connections. So that understanding is sort of built on this entire caregiving experience that I had with my father. So, as they say, every dark cloud has a silver
Yeah.
lining. So, it has taught me a lot of life lessons. Uh,
Yeah.
Hopefully, will be useful. And that's my attempt to make sure that those lessons I'm able to talk about, and there is a gift that I have of trying making complex things simple. So I want to use that gift to make sure that people understand these issues and maybe take some action to the extent it is in their hands.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's incredible. And thank you for that context, because it's really important to understand where you're coming from. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge and thank your spouse. Would you like to give us her name so that we can thank her in person?
Pramila, her name is Pramila.
Thank you, Pramila. So, as you were watching Pramila, who was the primary caregiver, although with resources, and she was probably overseeing things and not really doing the tasks herself. So, one of the other myths is that if I have enough money and I can hire the attendant, then things will be sorted. Clearly, they are not. That's not enough, right? So, as you were watching her, what do you think? So, Caregiver Saathi is about providing support to such primary caregivers. What do you think are some of the needs or some of the things that caregivers like Pramila might need? And today, you had to provide, you had to probably step in, or what could have helped her uh, during the caregiving journey?
One, of course, I think the biggest need that Pramila had at that time, and that's my understanding. Of course, she's the best person to talk about it. But
Yeah.
my understanding was the lack of understanding the what is involved. So as you rightly said, the general perception is कि पैसा है तो सब कुछ हो जाएगा. Okay,
Uh,
but पैसा doesn't take care of the person who does not come without informing the care, the ward boy who will not come. Okay, during COVID,
mm,
we could not get nurses. Okay, and so he had been used to nurses for 4 years from 2016 to 2020. He got affected by COVID, which sent him in,
mm,
he was in hospital. We could not visit him. He could not speak. I mean, that was a harrowing time for us.
mm,
And when he came back, we could not get any nurse. Okay,
mm,
and the nurse plays a vital role. So I mean, all that is something that money can't solve. Money
mm,
can solve a lot of problems, but doesn't solve all problems, and it creates some problems sometimes. Okay, I mean, making sure that they were maintaining the hygiene.
yeah.
Okay,
Mm,
because he was being fed through the mouth. Okay, he was being
yeah.
fed through
Tube.
a tube, etc. Okay,
Yeah.
there would be recurrent infections, bed sores, making sure
Mm,
that all those protocol that has been set up, that we hope will be done because you are paying for it, but you still have to make sure that they are doing it. And आप मतलब whenever we went out on trips, okay, initially we didn't go out on trips. Then we
yeah.
started going out. We said we will live, uh, our lives, okay. But
So
whenever we
important.
would go out on trip, here she was checking up every time.
Mm,
ये किया क्या? Did you give the food? Did you do this? Did you do that?
mm,
Okay, they should
mm,
not get a feeling कि if these guys are away, we can, do whatever we want. So I think that missing community, sort of a community of people who sort of have been through a similar experience. I think
mm,
that really would have helped. Something like caregiver Saathi that you are talking about. Okay, that would
mm,
really, really help, because she would then be able to understand what other people are
Yeah.
going through. I
Yeah.
tried to do whatever I could, but clearly a primary caregiver's empathy for another primary caregiver will be very, very different. So money doesn't solve
Also
problems, but
expectations will be different, right? Between a husband and wife, there's also the other dynamics, and there is other expectations. So you're absolutely right. And in fact, I think that maybe we should invite Pramila for a conversation on our other platform, which is Conversations with Gentle Warriors, and listen to her share her story, because at Caregiver Saathi, we have also put together a compendium of such voices, so that caregivers have a space where they can talk about their stories in their most human forms, so that it's not just a story of success and victory and sacrifice, but it is also the human story of the challenges and the struggles and the difficulties of being a caregiver. So,
absolutely. So, in
on
fact,
a
just
side
want to
note,
add one more item. Because it was lasted for so long, as I said initially,
yeah.
we were sort of completely concentrated on that. And then you start living your own life as well. You start going out, you start
Mm,
visiting friends, you start going out to parties as well. Okay. And then you feel guilty. Ki here I'm partying, I'm enjoying myself. Okay.
yeah.
While my father is lying in bed. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, and then your rational self says, but whatever can be done, there's nothing more
Is
that I
being
can
done.
do by sitting beside him on the bed, by leading my own life and taking care of myself is as important as taking care
Yeah.
of the care receiver. That's what a community does. Okay.
Yeah.
And that is what we sort of had to figure out on our
Yeah.
own.
Yeah.
This is all right. It's fine. Okay.
Yeah.
We can live our lives along with caregiving to the care receiver. I think that takes a while. There are certain
Mm,
demons that you have to fight
that
for
is
you
true.
to overcome that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for being vulnerable enough to share that and to talk about your journey. And for sure, guilt and difficulty of expressing some of these things is sometimes driven by our social norms as well, in the sense of a good son doesn't complain about something, or a good daughter-in-law, this is her duty. So those can make things difficult. But having worked in large organizations and now running your organization and probably knowing many people, what I'd like for you to do is talk about incidents or experiences where you have seen the role that organizations can play when an individual is a caregiver but is trying to balance caregiving with a workplace expectation. What do you think you have seen organizations do? And then we will talk about what can organizations do.
So, uh, I mean, once you have been in that role, then you become very sensitive to these kind of things happening around you. And I would like to
Yeah.
narrate two specific instances. The first is a nephew, a cousin nephew, and their child is a special child with very specific medical needs.
Hmm.
And the nephew's wife, she works for a very large corporate. I mean, I can take their name. She works for Tata's, and she
Hmm.
was telling me that the level of support that she received, and she's a mid-ranking
Right.
executive there. But the level of support that that organization has given her, and she was narrating a very specific instance where early in the morning they had to visit a specific doctor whose appointment they had got with great difficulty. I think it was that appointment was at 6 o'clock in the morning. I don't know which doctors give 6 o'clock morning appointments, but that is what they had. So
Mm.
she needed to reach there by 5:30. So, I mean, the company hired a taxi, made sure that the taxi reached her early in the morning. She could keep the
Mm.
taxi, come back. Uh, and that one instance, they were supportive throughout. They still are. But that one instance sort of crystallized the level of support, okay, that the corporate was giving. Obviously, she had a very sensitive boss, okay, but it was a sensitive, it's a large organization, right? And large
Yeah.
organizations, people tend to think are soulless, right? Who bothers about a specific employee, mid-level employee? But very clearly, that large organization had policies that allowed her boss to sort of do these things. Obviously, she is lucky to have that kind of a boss, but she is lucky to work for that kind of a corporate that allows her boss to do these kind of support to her. So I think, and this is not just for her. Come to think of it, and I was thinking about the HR impact.
Mm.
The impact, of course, on her is there. She will be loyal, uh, she will be more productive,
Committed.
but more committed, right? But the impact is on everybody else. They are watching, right? कि ठीक है,
Yeah.
हमारे साथ नहीं हुआ है, ओके,
पर हो
लेकिन
सकता
अगर
है.
हमारे साथ होता हमारे साथ, तो हमको
That's
भी
right.
सेम लेवल ऑफ सपोर्ट मिलेगा. तो ये ऑर्गेनाइजेशन अच्छी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, मे भी सैलरी शायद कम होगी मार्केट से थोड़ी सी, ओके, लेकिन ये ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के पास सोल है. सो आई थिंक दैट काइंड ऑफ अ फीलिंग इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. Building on that, something that happened to us, we are a very small, we are about
And before
nine
you go
people.
there, I'd like to just paraphrase it. This is about the organization culture, right? This is about the values of the organization, the Tata Group, and what it stands for. That it's not to do with just the policies, but it is what is practiced by managers on a daily basis. So that's why building that culture and that sensitivity is certainly something that workplaces can consider. Sorry, over to your next example.
So I think building on that, something that happened with our own organization.
Hmm.
Okay, we are very small. We are about 9 employees total. Okay,
Hmm.
so pretty small. We had a person who just joined us. Okay, and then she started taking leave, and the mention was that her father-in-law was not well, etc., and that is the reason. There were not too many details. The leaves became quite a lot. So then we reached out to the search consultant through whom the person had been
Hmm.
hired. And the search consultant did a chat with us. So she told us that, and I really admire the search consultant, because she was able to take a very dispassionate view. And I think, although it's gender casting is not correct even positively, but I think this is what women bring to the table: empathy. Okay. And
Hmm.
she called me up and said कि हर्ष, ये आप सोचिए कि मतलब ये आपके साथ भी हो सकता है. ओके, तो अगर इस समय आप सेंसिटिविटी नहीं दिखाएंगे, ओके, तो मतलब ठीक है, वो तो शी विल लीव. ओके, मतलब बिकॉज शी हैज नो चॉइस बट टू टेक केयर ऑफ हर फादर इन लॉ. ओके, बट if you are sensitive, you getting a committed employee. And this whole thing about having an impact on other people was something that she
Again,
alluded to as well. And I think that was a wake up call for me. Despite all my sensitivity about all this, that thought had not really occurred. So but we had a chat with her. Okay.
very
So we
important.
had a chat with her, and we worked out how exactly this will sort of work. And how she could inform us what to do in emergencies. So we worked out because we are a small organization. One person unexpectedly
Yeah,
not coming has an impact on
for
how the
sure.
organization functions. So we were able to work that out. And I think that has made, I don't know whether that has made us better employers. I don't think that's a claim which we have no way of checking, but it makes me feel good about the organization that I founded and run. So I think that's a good
Yeah,
enough payoff for this experience. So all that I can say is that this caregiving is increasingly an issue. I mean, now I speak to so many people of my generation, okay,
yeah.
and younger, okay, and a
Hmm.
lot of them face issues of caregiving for their
Yeah,
parents. Or I have a
yeah.
client who's doing caregiving for his differentially abled brother. Okay, and
Hmm.
it's a real, uh, what shall you say? It puts a lot of pressure. Even resources हैं, okay, लोगों के
Yeah,
पास, तो भी
yeah,
pressure बहुत होता है. बहुत
for sure.
people feel कि oh I've got left behind in my career, okay,
Hmm.
because I'm doing caregiving, and then they feel guilty ki, why am I worrying about my career when I'm supposed to take care of the care receiver. So ये जो mind में चलता है, okay, I think that is, so all this are things, if corporates understand the importance, in large corporates for sure, even mid-level corporates, you will have people, you will have employees who are undertaking caregiving activities. Every employee will relate to it because they know of people whose lives have changed because of caregiving. Okay,
That's right.
so how you behave with them will have an impact on the entire organization, not just on the concerned employee
Yeah,
for whom you are more sensitive.
for sure. Um, One of the related questions is I had a reflection on that example that you gave about you being a small organization. So sometimes I see that there is a tension, right? Like, how can I support? Because I'm just too small, and maybe if I was a larger organization, I could have supported very differently. But even within large organizations, every manager is like a small organization in that large organization, right? So, your point about at least I feel good about the kind of team that I'm running applies to every manager, I would think.
Absolutely. 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 So maybe they may not have the resources. So maybe in another organization, if because obviously the manager didn't pay for the taxi from his pocket.
That's
Okay.
right.
So obviously your organization has to support it. Okay.
That's right.
But एक तो organizational support था. Okay.
Yeah.
And then obviously you also feel good. And you also feel कि today I'm doing it for her. Tomorrow, if something happens to me or
Yeah.
I need this support, obviously it will be done. So I think the
Yeah.
demonstration effect, okay, and the reassurance, that,
Yeah.
demonstrative reassurance that it gives to those who are not ostensibly affected by it, I think is extremely important for organizations to consider.
Also policies are not cast in stone, so they are evolving. So a manager has the agency and the right to go back and say, listen, I have this case, it seems like a first of its kind, or maybe we haven't spoken about it, but maybe we have a case for us to look at. Should we make an exception to start with? Should this be a company wide policy? Can this be a change? Because no organization can have thought of all circumstances and designed policies around everything. So probably, workplaces and HR professionals or leaders are also looking for managers to give them real emerging data so that more contemporary policies can be designed. Uh, right? So now, having said that, Harsh, what I was very keen on getting your point of view about was if we were to flip this. So, for example, this is an important thing for organizations to do because, caregivers need to be given some accommodations. So, can we give them, flexibility, etc.? Have you experienced what are the unique competencies or skills that people who have caregiving experiences can bring to an organization that could be valuable for the organization?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't have first-hand experience, so I can't relate it from experience, but I'm just, thinking about it as you mentioned the question. I mean, multitasking, for example,
Mm,
okay, or ability to take quick on the spot decisions,
mm,
okay, to improvise when things don't go as expected, or when people don't
right,
turn up, okay. I mean, those are skills that a caregiver literally practices on a daily basis, okay.
for sure.
Uh, you add resource constraints to the mix, okay, and
Mm,
how to sort of do all this with a resource constraint. I mean, that's a business situation, right?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So think of the value that such a person brings to the corporate. Okay. Uh, of course, once the caregiving responsibilities are sort of over, because time is also a constraint for them. But they bring very unique skills. The biggest unique skill that they will also bring is empathy, because one of the things that goes up dramatically, okay, is this ability. At least that was this I can narrate from experience, okay, that your ability to think about what the other person is going through
yeah,
improves when you do dramatically. And I think empathy
that's
is one
right.
of the most required management
Leadership.
skills, leadership skills, right? Leadership skills. That is one of the most important skills to have.
So, this my hypothesis is this imagination that women have more empathy is because women have been tasked with caregiving for so many generations that it has become a part of how you think, how you be, etc. Even men would have if they had that experience and exposure. It has nothing to do with the number of chromosomes that you have.
I'm sure. I'm sure. Yes, it is also what role. I mean, unfortunately, society, casts you in certain roles, and that
Yeah.
helps you learn something, and that also sort of becomes a constraint. But in this particular case, of course, there is a lot of positives that one can get from the caregiving experience.
So, to take our conversation further and say, so what is it? The theme of our conversation is future fit corporates. What does it make? What does it take for organizations to be innovative and resilient? And what does it take for workplaces to be sensitive to caregivers? And what can workplaces do really? We were speaking a little while ago, and as we were preparing for this conversation, and we said, hmm, what can really organizations do? I mean, who will fund this effort, right? So I would like for you and I to do some blue sky thinking and some brainstorming because you are the finances expert. And one of the challenges that I'm often faced with is why should organizations or state or individuals who should fund the support for caregivers, and how can we be innovative about it?
So it's a very, very interesting chain of thought that our conversation started off in my head. So I'm talking as I'm
Still
thinking as I'm
exploring.
talking. But just think about it. First of all, those people should first plan for it themselves. Okay, and
Mm-hmm.
this I tell
Yeah.
people, my clients, I mean, are
Yeah.
ones with a fair amount of money with them.
Yeah.
Okay. Some of them come ki, I have no goals. I said, how can you have no goals? Okay.
Mm.
What will you do with the money? Okay.
Yeah.
So, for example, now long-term care, like the thing that say, uh,
On a lighter note, all those people who don't know what to do with the money, you can direct them to our foundation.
right? No. So
But
what
yes.
they say is I mean, it reminds me, and I've written about this anecdote. There is this character in Shahid Bhagat Singh movie, the character who plays राजगुरु. ओके.
Hmm.
एंड वो उनको वो बोलते हैं कि भाई तुम्हें मरने की बहुत जल्दी है. ओके.
Huh.
तो दिस कैरेक्टर हु इज प्लेइंग राजगुरु सेज कि ना बस मैं एक बार देश के लिए मर जाऊं. ओके. फिर मैं शांति से रहूंगा. ओके. सो मतलब सो ये द होल
Yeah.
आइडिया इज दैट पीपल, पहले मैं पैसे कमा लेता हूँ फिर मैं इंजॉय करूंगा. अरे कब इंजॉय करोगे? अब तो पैसे बन
Correct.
भी गए हैं तुम्हारे. ओके. सो
Hmm.
द पॉइंट इज कि when you prod people a little, you realize that they have not thought about long-term care. And there is no
Right.
earthly reason with people, lots of money, and people like me, if I don't set aside funding for long-term
Hmm.
care, at least I can set aside funding. I may keep worrying who will take care of me. Okay.
Right.
But if I have not set aside funding, then I'm
Yeah.
irresponsible. Very
That's right.
clearly, I'm irresponsible. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, because I'm anticipating that event. Okay.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, you have to prod them into thinking कि ऐसा होता है क्या, आपने सुना है, आपकी फैमिली में हुआ है क्या. Okay. तो
Right.
invariably somebody or the other they would have had that experience. Do you know how much it costs? Unfortunately,
Hmm.
I know that how much it costs. So okay, this much it costs. So if this comes up, can we
Hmm.
allocate a certain portion for, of your considerable amount, can we allocate a certain portion? If it is used, then it will be there. If it is not used, it can pass on to your children. Okay. But you have the ability to do it. And if you are allocating it for this, then the kind of investments you will make will change. Okay. Or
Yeah.
may change. Okay. But
Yeah.
definitely you must set aside something. So, those are, so first responsibility obviously is of the individual themselves. Okay. The responsibility can be in terms of setting aside the money. If they have, they must set aside, or they must start saving, just like you do a SIP for so many goals. Do a SIP for this, think about it. Okay. Start thinking about it. I think so. Spreading that awareness, okay, is a major function as a society. The absolute number, we may be young as a nation, okay, but because we are so many, okay, 1.4 billion people, the sheer
Hmm.
number of senior people, and they are not the only ones who will suffer, but
We'll need care.
let's
Yeah.
assume that only the senior citizens will require caregiving for now. Okay. Then, the sheer number, absolute number of people
Yeah.
is going to be humongous. Okay.
Yeah.
And with them living longer and longer. Okay.
Yeah.
So the lifespans are improving, the health spans, the quality of the last decade of a person's life, what
Yeah.
way they will spend the last decade of their life, that is completely changing, because the
Yeah.
decades, that last decade is now coming in the 80s. Earlier it
Yeah.
would come in the 60s or the 70s. Now
70s. Yeah.
people are living till 90,
Great
95.
point.
So
Great
I think
point.
first individual has to plan for
Hmm.
themselves. Of course, those people who have no resources, the state remains responsible. I mean, as they say, the
Yeah.
king is that's the British doctrine of, the king being the provider for all his subjects. Based on that, the state has to sort of take care if there are no resources. Okay. But I think when more dialogue happens, as we were discussing, some sort long-term insurance, okay, now does not exist in India. Okay.
Yeah.
Can something be looked at on
Yeah.
long-term insurance? The only
Yes,
issue with long-term insurance is that people have very little faith in the insurance companies,
that's
okay,
right.
on their willingness to fork out the actual claims when the claims
Yeah,
come, okay,
yeah,
and
yeah,
obviously those are for-profit organizations.
yeah.
So, a for-profit organization doing this kind of work, it's happening in the world. There are long-term care products available.
That's right.
Uh, and maybe a version of that should be done, some
Hmm.
kind of a community pooling. I mean, not the greatest example, but some kind of a community pooling, like in the some of the states in the US have a provision that if somebody suffers from, say, Alzheimer's or Parkinson's and is required to be taken care of in a in a home, okay, they are not able to take care of themselves, then whatever assets they have will go to the state, and that
State.
state will then take care of them till their death. Okay, so that sort of creates a pool. It's a state created pool, and the
Yeah.
state supplements the pool with whatever money is required. Okay, I mean, any solution, I don't think we can come up with a solution right now, is, as you said, is blue sky thinking, but some sort of a community pool where you know, you were mentioning about the Rudale's model, where
Model.
everybody contributes a little bit, and then based on that pool, the hospital takes care of preventive as well
Emergency.
as curative or hospital treatments required
Yes.
for that person. So that's insurance. That's pooling is
Yes.
basically an insurance concept. It's a
That's
private
right.
insurance, right?
That's right.
Some sort
That's
of
right.
a community insurance where based on my contribution I'm able to withdraw. So it's still a pool to which I'm contributing, although what
Yes.
I get back may not be commensurate. So unlike an
Yes.
insurance where there is a cap on what I can withdraw, okay,
That's right.
some sort of a pool where I contribute so that I'm able to withdraw, okay,
Yes.
and but if the pool falls short, okay,
Yes.
then somebody has to come. It can be, I mean, the state, but given the
Yes.
various demands on the state's coffers, I don't know how much of the state's coffers will come, whether it will come on time, etc.,
Yeah.
or from CSR funds or from charity, but some sort of a contributory pool, okay, some sort of a contributory insurance pool supplemented by external
That's right.
forces could be a the rough contours of a
Yes.
solution. That's what sort of comes to
Well,
mind.
we have inspiration to take from some of the Scandinavian countries and the tax structures in Canada, or we can certainly learn from what some of these countries are trying to do. Clearly, today, for example, despite everything, Japan and Germany need a care workforce. They may have financial resources, but they do need compassionate people who can provide the human touch and the care. And they also need financial resources, and probably, while an organization may be able to do whatever they can within their organization, potentially I would think there is power in consortiums, in what you do with the CSR money, in what you do with collectives like NASCOM or FICCI or CII. Maybe there are definitely conversations that need to happen, because this impacts the talent, your working adult population. If they are going to be stressed on account of caregiving, we don't have access to their potential and their capability unless we provide for this, and they cannot provide for it individually, right?
Absolutely. So you can mix and match this. I don't know Scandinavia is the right example because they are very highly taxed societies. Okay, I
Yeah.
don't know whether we can really bear that kind of a high taxation burden.
Yeah.
they are developed economies, they are able to take
Yeah.
care of those taxes. For us, if those taxes come, it will be probably be an issue. But this pool model, and you can expand this contributory pool model. The contribution can come from employers. We spoke about employers. Okay.
Yes.
Look at all the wastage that today happens in ESIC. Okay. That's a classic. It's become a tax. Okay.
See that again? What is that? What is that base?
Employee State Insurance Corporation,
Ah,
and
yeah.
it's a
Yes, yes.
tax on the some of the lowest paid people. Okay,
That's
because it
right.
applies only to people with basics of 15,000 rupees.
That's right.
Above
That's
that,
right.
there is no ESIC contribution.
Yes.
Okay, so think about that. Some sort of a contribution by an employer that goes into the pool on behalf of the employee. Okay, and which can be supplemented if needed, if that pool falls short, which I suspect it will. Okay, then that can be supplemented by the state through the taxpayers' money. Some sort of a solution where employers contribute, as you said, maybe CSR money, maybe philanthropy money, maybe state monies, of course. So some sort of a overall effort uh, is clearly needed. But for all that to start, I think the biggest thing is consciousness that this is a issue. And
Yeah.
today a lot of that consciousness comes from personal experiences.
Yes.
Uh, it has to sort of transcend from personal experiences into some sort of an institutional imperative.
Golden words. And that's exactly why we are having this conversation, Harsh. We have to begin these conversations and take them to a larger audience, because there is a role. There is a role for workplaces, and the shape of workplaces is changing. And all kinds of talent needs to be pulled in to create new innovation, to make sure that we have a robust economy, and therefore, we have to take care of these upcoming issues that can potentially create waste for an organization, right? ESIC also, I find that many small organizations don't know that you can avail of, for example, the maternity expenses that you may have if you hire a woman who needs to be paid during her maternity leave, because ESIC covers this. There is just not enough awareness about it. So,
So
hope,
one more reason why this should be done. So the caregivers themselves can become a very vital part of the economy. What I meant were the paid caregivers. Okay,
yes,
the very see. I'm not talking of nurses. I'm talking of the ground level caregivers. They called ward
yes,
boys or
attendants,
attendants. Okay, they're semi-skilled. Okay, they
yes,
need not be highly educated. Okay,
yes,
now this can't be taken over. This activity can't be taken over by AI. Okay,
yes,
so very clearly, this is a human activity.
yes,
The fact that it is much needed, you can see the the companies that have been venture funded in this sector, in the caregiving
yes,
sector, for profit organizations, of course. From there itself, we can judge how important this is. So, this is a huge employment generator as well. So, it
for
is not
sure. Not just domestic, international.
international, absolutely. Okay.
Yes,
And I think this is so I mean, there is some recognition of this. I believe this is one of the vocations that is given in the skilling
yes,
guidelines. Okay.
yes,
But uh, I think some more importance to this and the
yes,
funding pattern, because eventually to make use of this
yes,
workforce, we would need funding, and some more thought on basis for that funding is very, very important.
yes. No, for sure. I think I'm glad to have this conversation started. And I'm sure this is the first of many. And I will need your support to get this conversation across to many other people who may have wondered why such a conversation is required. Um, for now, we will bring this conversation to a close. And I would like to express my gratitude, Harsh. Thank you for walking this path with me. And any closing remarks that you might have as we bring this conversation to a close?
So, I mean, thank you, Bhavna, for sort of inviting me. As I said, this has set off a chain of thoughts. Thank you for doing the work that you do. Okay. I mean, if this sort of starts crystallizing some sort of thoughts on this very vital issue, that is going to become increasingly important. So, more power to you, more power to caregivers, Saathi, more power to everybody in this
Thank you.
community. I think it is needed, it is important for the economy as well.
Yes,
This is going to give a lot of employment to
yes.
many people if we can figure out the funding issue.
Yes, for sure. And I am going to talk to you and Pramila about your conversations with Gentle Warriors and what other caregivers can learn from you, in as much as how we can learn to be better taken care of ourselves, whether it is our wills or our succession planning or our financial planning.
Sure.
Thank you, Harsh. Really appreciate this.
Thank you. Thank you, Bhavani.
Thank you for watching this episode of Future Fit Corporates. If today's conversation resonated with you, don't let it end here. Join the Future Fit Corporates Club or the FFC Club. Explore our full dossier and discover powerful blogs from our past speakers. Let's move beyond inclusion as a buzzword. Let's make diverse experiences, especially experiences of caring for others, caregiving, a leadership strength. Together, we can truly build not just a caring world, but future fit workplaces. Until next time, take care and let's keep the conversation on.